Call attendance, please.
Sure. Mr. Shannon.
Present?
Ms. Dobbs. Here. Mr. Welsh.
Here.
Mr. Capuzzi.
Here.
Mr. Fiordamando. There we go. I did it. I was like, I'm going to do this. Mr. Montresor is not here. Ms. Phillips. Here.
Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on our agenda is Chatham Park Elementary School, preliminary and final land development plan.
Oh, sorry about that. And
What is your name again, please?
Carolyn DuBois with K&W Engineers. And so since we were here last month, we addressed every single comment in the first review letter that we received, and on May the 20th, made a resubmission of the plans for review by Pannoni, and we're here tonight to answer any further questions that you might have on the plan. So we did receive a second letter back, based on our second submission. So wanted to just come this evening and answer any further questions that you might have. And maybe I'll just start the conversation here. One of the things that if you have do you have the June 4th letter from the review letter?
Did we get it in our materials?
I'm going to tell them that we're going to withdraw this.
February 8th.
Right. Right. That was 3 weeks ago.
I brought a copy with me.
So if you recall, the last time that we were here, there were several waivers that we had requested. And one of the waivers we actually withdrew, and that's the one where you had the requirement to notify all property owners within 200 feet of the property. So we actually did send out those notifications to each neighbor roughly 3 weeks ago. Okay, so we're no longer requesting that waiver.
But you didn't send them certified mail, correct?
Correct.
How'd you send them, regular mail? So you would need a partial waiver on that point.
Okay.
Have you received any comments from any of those neighbors within 200 feet?
The district is not.
We have not, no, sir, no.
The notice probably said that we're planning an addition and there's a meeting tonight. Show up if you want to make your voices heard or something like that.
Something like that.
There are several comments in the review letter that refer to the approval needed by the Shade Tree Commission. And we actually did go through the Shade Tree Commission in April, I think it was, and got their final review. And we actually did receive a letter from them indicating that they had approved the landscape plan. So did we submit a copy?
I think we have that letter in our materials.
I think you have a copy of it.
Yes.
So again, that's in the comments, but again, that is already addressed. And then a lighting plan has been submitted. That went in with the submission back in May. There's a few more comments just about photometrics, and certainly that's a fairly easy thing for us to add. So on a resubmission, the photometrics will just indicate the foot candles on the paved surfaces. erosion and sedimentation control plans. What we're doing is an NPDES permit for this project. That review is taking actually place separately, but concurrently by the County Conservation District. So we made that submission back in April as well. We've received a first round of comments back, have sent plans back. So again, the ENS review is taking place concurrently. Panini has requested a copy of our ENS plans and we'll be sending those to them. And then one question, go. One question that, yeah, the sewer, planning, yes, sewer exemption is requested. That's in DEP's hands. We don't see any issues with that. We've requested an exemption for the sanitary sewage facilities planning on that one. Again, well underway. One of the questions that I had.
Which drainage shed are you in as far as sewage goes?
Excuse me?
Which drainage shed are you in, Cobb's Creek or Darby Creek?
Can't remember. Cobb's.
Cobb's, okay.
And this may be something we talk with Chuck Sepulveda about, but a general comment just about adding additional directional signage to further clarify traffic routes, the buses versus the cars and the directions that they go within. We've added quite a few signages to the plans to indicate, one-ways, do not enters, things of that nature. But I think we were just looking for, if you tell us precisely what additional you'd like, we're happy to do it. And we can work with you separately on that one. Again, it's one of those things where wherever you think that they're needed, we're happy to put them in and to make it as clear, as you think it needs to be. Turning movements, we do have a program called Auto Turn. I think I might have showed it to you last time that we were here, just to show the turning movements of the vehicles that come into site, particularly the largest ones. Delivery trucks, school buses, vehicles, but we've got, the largest school bus, a 40-foot vehicle, plus a delivery vehicle is 40 feet easily, making their turns to enter and exit the site, back into the loading dock, get out of the loading dock, and we can easily submit plans that actually show, the turning movements of the vehicles to help assist in clarifying that question.
I've asked Steve Poole for which fire truck takes care of Chatham too, so we can add that on the plans as well.
Not a problem at all. Our computer program, has the various footprints and sizes and turning movements for every type of and size of vehicle. It's a pretty neat program, but it shows all of the bumpers and wheels and everything, how they turn. So we will add all of those vehicles. What we do is we add the largest vehicle in there so that anything smaller is going to make that turn. So we'll certainly add that to the plans when we resubmit them.
Does the plan take into account, I think we may have mentioned this before, when you have teams and you have your own school buses, plus you have visiting teams, and they're either going to be on the property parked or they're going to be on side streets?
With the elementary school, there aren't.
Yeah, I know that was said, but then somebody said, yeah, but sometimes we have Little League on the weekends.
Well, I think that's just recreational leagues.
On your property.
Point of order, middle school has teams there.
I'll get an answer from Director of Transportation, but that's, obviously after school, so that's not during school hours. So I'll find out from him and get an answer on that.
Those games start at 3:30 when the school is dismissed. So the girls have to wait.
We shouldn't have comments unless you want to come up and.
Well, I would like the opportunity. I'm just
Sure.
for a point of order.
Okay.
I'm one of the folks that received the letter. I was unsure
Okay.
that I was surprised that we're in the final stage.
Well, you're welcome to speak when we finish the initial comments.
The next item, and we're thinking that maybe this would be something we meet out in the field just to clarify, but again, there are, on Alston Road, there are across from the school, existing ADA ramps, existing crosswalks, and then we've provided a number of new ADA drop curb ramps along in front of the school, but I think there's still a question about how, would the path of travel for the students, and how would that work? But if we think that we need to add more, we're happy to do it. But we think that if Chuck, if you want to meet us out in the field, happy to go over that. Or if you have any suggestions on where you think they could go, but we certainly, just want to make sure we're clear, on what what the request might be, and then we can certainly show it on the plans.
Yeah, I think the same, we could review any
The curb is-
existing curb or existing
Yeah.
sidewalk that there's a concern over as well.
Meaning if there's any deteriorated curb or walk, certain sections that need to be removed and replaced, happy to do it. We can just pinpoint areas if we do a site walkthrough on that. And that's pretty much it. So if there's any further questions or comments on the plan, happy to answer.
I can
Are
start.
there any comments from the board?
Last time we talked about showing the school buses. I'm currently looking at site plan C103.1. And we talked about showing the preschool buses with the first one stops. So because the children are so small, some of them, they stop with the door of the bus right next to the door of the building, and they offload the buses one at a time, or they load them one at a time. So the buses would never pull up in the configuration that you're showing them. They put the vans, there's also 2 vans and a minibus, which is sort of similar size to a van, that park in front of the buses where the third bus you're showing is, because those have individual attendants on them that can go and help get the children, and it's a much more manageable group. But for the buses themselves, they just offload them at the door. So you would want to just show the front of the bus where the doors to the school are, and then stack the other 3 back of the drive aisle, make it be realistic for what will happen.
We actually spoke to the director of transportation, and he said he'll modify it as needed to make sure it stays out of the way and doesn't block the aisle. So he said if our buses have to pull up more, that's how we'll direct our bus drivers. So I think we spoke, that's a logistical item to make sure it doesn't create an issue. So if they have to move buses, they will do that.
So when the children are walking back, is there going to be something in place that keeps the drop-off parents from not getting up in that loop? Because currently, sometimes there's a number of parents that also go in this loop. And I think that's...
We can, I'm happy to talk to the principal and the director of transportation to get an answer, but they said they'll modify their logistics and how they, now that you're going to have the new drop-off lane, they're going to have folks out there, again, similar to Linwood. So I'm happy to get more information from him, but they both said that, they're going to have to modify how they operate as needed.
Okay, and then as far as the drop-off lane goes, can you explain to me, so now the cars are going to be slowing down and turning in here on a road that has a pretty consistent flow of traffic during, and again, this isn't like a traffic jam all day long. This is just for 15 minutes at the beginning and the end of school.
Sure.
But it is sort of a delicate traffic ecosystem. So if you start to have a number of parents who are coming through here, and then you're going to start having a number of parents who are going to back up to turn back out, because I believe there'll still be a ton of cars, because this isn't nearly big enough to accommodate everyone and all the access points of the building. So you're still going to have a ton of cars who are dropping off along the frontage of the school and the side of the school, just because of the doors that are used in such a short amount of time to get everyone in and out. And so I guess, and there's also a number of pedestrian traffic. So I guess first of all, I would just want to know how you're going to keep the pedestrians safe there. And then second of all, how you're going to get these cars who are going to slow everyone down to turn in, because they're going to have to wait for kids to cross and clear the crosswalk, because there is a really high volume of pedestrian traffic for this school.
Is the school going to have people out there?
And then also, when the cars are coming back out, they're also going to jam stuff up because of the one-way pattern of the roads. Pine Ridge is one way and Farmland is one way, and they all come down to Alston, and they're directed to turn left during this time of day.
Right.
So how will that work to not create a traffic jam?
I'm certainly not a traffic expert. We did have a traffic study done. The volume of people going and coming from the school isn't changing. So I'm not sure, you know, we're adding another driveway entrance.
Right, but you're
guess I'm trying to
slowing,
understand
you're
your
sort of
question.
slowing the cars down by creating a stop point because there's a ton of pedestrian traffic that's gonna be like crossing over this entrance to the parent drop-off.
Right?
So
So what's different
cars-
than what's now, I guess is what I'm trying to understand to your question.
Cars
Because
not-
there's a stop sign there already.
No, the stop sign's further down at the end.
It's further down at that entrance.
Yeah, there's no
So now
stop
you have
sign
another
there at
one
all.
there. So
Yeah.
you're turning in.
So if you're adding a stop sign there, then you're also adding,
Believe there's a stop sign being added there. Is there?
I'd like to think that there
At the
is.
driveway entrance? I don't think
Not
it's
at
a
the
driveway.
driveway, no.
Yeah, but you're still gonna have a lot of people stopping because there's a ton of kids that walk. This school's not really comparable to Linwood and Manoa because it's back in the neighborhoods, so a lot more people do walk. A lot more.
Yeah, there's a lot.
And you also have, and because of that, like, it's also not on a main road, like Linwood and Manoa, so the cars can pull up along the side of the road. As opposed to like on Manoa, you obviously just can't pull over and abandon your car, but here you're back in the neighborhood, so you can. Which brings me back to what I was saying last time about not thinking that this parking lot here is truly necessary. I think that you could achieve what needs to be achieved with the land near the existing parking lot. And then just go ahead and put the other new parking lot for the teachers down at the other end, which I do think will help with the weekend and the after-school sports parking that happens over on that road.
I guess I'm trying to answer your question. So to expand the existing parking lot with another 18, I think, spaces that are in the front, I don't know, can we
I
even
don't know
physically
that-
do that by township ordinance?
I don't know that you even need all 18 spaces. I really think that because this school is so different, that you really could go through and try to preserve the open space and, you know, save the taxpayers from putting in a parking lot that is potentially not truly necessary because you're not adding a ton of any extra teachers really. I mean, maybe at most, I think it said 4 classrooms in one of the emails that I saw.
So a total of 8 additional.
Yeah,
classrooms.
and the parking was shown is really calculated
but
based on what the
it's-
zoning ordinance requires.
But it's 8 classrooms, but
Right.
it's only 6 because you're taking away the 2 trailers. And I really don't think that, I mean, you know, you're going for a zoning, you would be looking into a zoning variance, but the savings would be huge. If you look at it from that.
Right now, we've been directed, district administration feels the parking is necessary. We're meeting the township required ordinances, so we're not currently going for any variance. The plans are being presented as they are here.
Could you at least speak to the safety question as for all the pedestrian students, how that will be handled where they're crossing this new driveway entrance?
You know, I'm not a district administrator, but I'm happy to get an answer from the principal. I know they do have staff that is outside during morning drop-off
Right.
and whatnot, so I'm happy to get a statement from him.
Right,
If
'cause,
you'd like
I mean,
clarification on that.
Right now, there's 2 crossing guards. There's one that stands up at the corner where the buses go in currently, and there's another one that stands up at the corner of Alston.
Yeah, and I know they have staff. I don't know how many, so as I said, I can't speak to the
Yeah.
safety of that, but I'll get a statement from
Those are the
the
only-
principal.
Yeah, those are the only 2 crossing guard staff who are out front. Everyone else is just in the building.
Well, that's, crossing guard is staff that's hired, I believe, by the township police, but I'm talking about staff from the
School
building,
district
school
staff,
district
right.
staff.
Right, we don't have, like, there's no school district staff outside. The parents, like, Dr. Whitehead has always been quite clear in emails that the parents are responsible until the first.
Well, as I said, that's why I need to get a statement from him
Okay.
on how it will be addressed.
Comments from the commission?
Just wanted to quickly piggyback. So at the last meeting, I had also expressed some concern about the validity and necessary use of the secondary parking lot. I understand your position on the matter, so I won't press it. But I just want to mention the driveway entrances on the main parking lots have, it just looks like 2 bars for a crosswalk, but there doesn't appear to be a crosswalk shown over the driveway entrance on Glen Arbor Road. So I just want to make sure
Oh,
that
across
we're
the new entrance.
crossing the new entrance to the new parking lot. So I
That's
just-
added now.
Oh, it's, okay.
It'll be on the plans.
It's not on, okay.
Yeah.
So what I'm looking at is, but also can we, instead of just doing 2 bars, can we make them more visible using like a zebra crossing?
Hashing.
Like the piano keys?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
And then the review letter doesn't say much about the stormwater management. Did everything, have we done full engineering on the stormwater management and did everything check out for that?
Yeah.
Yeah, Maggie, actually, the stormwater management was pretty good.
Okay.
There were a few minor comments, but nothing that would blow anything up.
Okay, great. Okay, that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Seeing no further comments from the commissioners, I'll ask for public comment. When you come up, could you tell us your name and address, please?
My name is Eric Langenau. I live at 605 Valley Road, right behind the playground equipment at Chatham Park.
And what's your name again, please?
Eric Langenau, Langenau. So I came here with 3 concerns, but my first concern is I am surprised as a local resident that this is so far along. I haven't really seen the plans. This is I received the letter 2 weeks ago that this was going to be discussed, and it doesn't say anything about final approval. This is the first that myself or any of my neighbors have been aware that this was moving forward. So I'm a little disappointed in that, and I think several of my neighbors probably have more to say as well, because we know the neighborhood extremely well. But my 3 concerns are, first, drainage, and I'm curious as to what the stormwater situation was, because over the last 2 years, we've had a lot of flooding in the back of Chatham Park toward the playground equipment, to the point where we notified Public Works, we notified Jerry Hart to negotiate. I had flooding in our garage, and it went down our driveway, so that has been reported. You'll see if you go there now, there are a number of sandbags along the back, and that's to prevent the water damage from going further in. So I'm super curious about the drainage report, because I'm not sure that that's entirely accurate or complete. And those sandbags are still there, so those are available. The second concern I have is the lighting. 2 years ago, the lights were changed in the back of Chatham Park, and actually around the whole surrounding of the school. And all the lights are very high wattage, and they face outward toward the community. It's very, very bright. And particularly in the wintertime, when you have foliage that is no longer available, it's really intrusive to the neighbors. And then the third is security. We have a large number of kids, mostly I would say middle school or high school kids, that congregate at the playground equipment during the evening hours, large time during the summer. There's multiple police there that come and chase kids away, so that would be, I'm sure that's discoverable as well. But I'm curious as to how that's going to be handled as well. So those are the 3 sort of concerns I came with. But I think my biggest concern, honestly, is just not being aware that this was moving so fast. I really don't think the community knows. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Any questions or no?
I would just say that security is not an issue that this board can take care of. It's more a school board issue.
Well, but how you design the lighting and the facilities would address security issues.
The township does have standards for lighting. I don't know
Yeah.
that the current lighting meets those standards. It's supposed to be directed down, not out.
Oh,
There's
they're
limits
definitely
on
out,
lights
yes.
and things like that. So if there are lighting issues out there that are, it's non-conforming as far as the ordinance goes, then
Okay.
maybe this is an opportunity to correct those.
Yeah, okay, that's great.
But until we receive a complete lighting plan,
Yeah,
we
okay.
can't say for sure one way or the other.
Okay. The drainage, I do think, is a serious concern, because 10 years ago, when they put in the Roman aqueducts in the back of Chatham Park, for those of you who remember what that looked like, it was a serious engineering effort. And it may have worked temporarily, but as I said, there's still an ongoing drainage problem in the back.
Generally speaking, when stormwater management is installed for a project, it's installed specifically for that project. It's not meant to necessarily solve all of the existing problems, but it's supposed to take the proposed condition and bring it to a pre-development condition, if you will. And I'm assuming that's the way the stormwater management for this project's been designed. I don't believe that anything that the township's done in the past on that property is going to be affected by the proposed design.
Yeah, to me, this is an opportunity to correct a problem that already exists, though. Just like you're building a new property to accommodate more students and make it more comfortable, you'd think that also storm drainage would be part of that project.
The drainage area to that location is much more than just the school, okay? It's probably hundreds of acres compared to the school's property, which is probably less than 20 acres.
Well,
So
the-
to put the burden of stormwater management all on the school, I don't think it's fair. They have to do their share, but a lot of the problem comes from, Brookline and places like that.
But for me, actually watching storms come in, when you watch the water go onto the back pavement and see it just run down that hill and go into those two drainage areas in the back, that is clearly a school issue. The way it was graded was not carefully thought out, I believe. So you're right. I mean, the water comes obviously from other areas, but I can see it coming down right off the hill and creating like a little lake behind there.
Do you have any suggestions as far as lighting is concerned?
Well, I have seen schools where they put the lighting on the perimeter and point the lights toward the school. That would actually, I'm sure that would add cost because you'd have to lay electric lines, along the outside of the property and point them in. So it would probably increase that cost. But other than that, I don't know. And maybe it is just the hats, pointing them downward instead of outward.
The lights on all night?
Yes, they are on all night. Yeah.
So just to piggyback off of that real fast, I liked Angelo's suggestion. That could be something that we discuss as a recommendation regarding retrofitting all of the lights on the site to be full cutoff if they're not already, to be in compliance with the township regulations, and then install pedestrian-oriented lighting around maybe the driveway entrances to illuminate those. So your point is well taken. I think we can certainly make recommendations. I also just want to explain to you a little bit about how this process works in terms of kind of where we are in the process. I don't want you to be misled by the title that they've given this plan as preliminary/final.
Okay.
This is only the second time that we've seen this plan. So they came to us for the first time last month, presented the plan, and we had a robust discussion about the application. They've revised it and have a secondary review letter, and they're revising it again to come into compliance with all of the review comments that they received from the township engineer and other consultants. We're the planning commission. We don't make final determinations on anything. We're an advisory body to the Board of Commissioners. So there will be continued public comment opportunities on this project as we move forward with it. So what happens is that it'll come to us for review. We'll make our recommendations. So we'll make our comments, we'll review the iterations, we'll make our recommendations. So essentially what we're looking for is we call it a clean plan, meaning that all the review comments have been satisfactorily addressed. And then at that point, we can make a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners.
Perfect. Okay.
Then the plan goes to the Board of Commissioners, who will then approve or deny the plan. Ultimately, once they achieve all of the review comments and meet all of the ordinance requirements, they've requested a certain number of waivers, if you heard that term.
Yeah.
Waivers are things from the ordinance that they can request relief from the Board of Commissioners, who can grant them or not.
Okay.
So that ultimate deciding power is with the commissioners, not with the planning commission here.
Got it.
So just stay tuned for.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay.
Great.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for the agendas for the planning commission when this comes up, and then you and your neighbors can come. This is the best opportunity to have public comment when we're still in the kind of design revision phase.
Yeah.
Once it goes to the Board of Commissioners, it's a little bit harder since they're kind of at the 10-yard line at that point.
That makes sense.
In
Okay.
the red zone, so to speak. So you're not too late to the
Okay.
game.
That is super helpful and reassuring. So
Great.
Thank you. I
Sure.
appreciate it. Thanks.
That's what we do.
Thanks.
Thanks very much.
Hi, my name is Kathy McCauley. I live at 201 Glen Arbor Road, which is directly across the street. It's the corner of Glen Arbor and Austin. This school. I have been told by many parents and grandparents that they can't park in the existing parking lot because it's full of faculty. So I do believe a little bit of extra parking might be beneficial. That being said, where that lot is doesn't affect me because it's down the street, and some of my neighbors might not agree with me, but I know they don't have enough parking there. My concerns, I also was notified by the school district, not by you, about this meeting tonight. I mean, and I had no idea, and it took me a couple of emails to finally look at the plans and be able to know what you were talking about. My biggest concern is about construction, noise, disruption to the neighborhood. I've been through a couple go-rounds with Chatham. They put a new roof on. They worked 24/7. There was no peace and no quiet that summer. It was, I'm worried about those kinds of things, but I'm also worried that the school remains a neighborhood school, has that feel that there aren't 1,000,001 signs. There are already 10 signs right at the corner of Alston and Monroe Road. There's a big sign pollution problem in this township. I think driving down Arlington Road is ridiculous. I know where I am. I can read the one sign. I don't need 3 signs. I know I'm supposed to be slow. I know it's a school zone. If you're not, it's a school, that's a policing problem as far as I'm concerned, if you're speeding. The parents do park the other thing I was concerned about was, is there going to be a change to the traffic patterns through Chatham Park that affects us as residents going out in the morning? I can tell you right now, I can't get out of my driveway from 8:15 till 8:45. I don't even bother taking a car anywhere at that time because I'm in the middle of everything. But again, it's a half hour in the morning, 15 minutes in the afternoon, it's fine. But, I want to know if you're going to make my street a one-way street or if that type of stuff is being considered. So, thank you for listening.
There's no change proposed for the traffic circulation.
Okay, good. That's good to know. And as for noise, and I'm not talking about the noise of the school. I love children. I love hearing them. I wouldn't be here for 40-some years if I didn't love the school. It's a beautiful thing, but I'm worried about construction, and I'm not sure who to address with that.
That would be with the township, so there's
Okay.
noise ordinances and limitations on when work can
All right.
happen.
Okay.
From a traffic standpoint, Kathy, is it worse in the morning or in the afternoon?
I think it's worse in the morning. It's horrendous in the rain. Horrendous in the rain. And I will sit and, I have a front patio and I see the parents and they park their cars and a 3rd, 4th, and 5th grader, they're walking across the street and all I can think of is, oh geez, why don't you drop them at the corner and keep going to work? A lot of it is just people not thinking. I mean, I know little ones need to be crossed. We have a wonderful crossing guard, 2 wonderful crossing guards. I watch them. They're very careful with the kids. They're very good. I don't see it. It's bad. It's bad on the weekends too. I mean, in soccer season, you can't get a parking spot. I can't get a parking spot in front of my house. My children used to complain they'd come from school and they couldn't park. And I said, go somewhere, have a cup of coffee, come 10 minutes later, you have all the parking you want. And you just have to be a little patient. It's part of living across from the school. So, I'm assuming that's not going to change too drastically because they're not adding enrollment. So, but the school was 160 children when I first moved there. So it has grown dramatically, that school. And I'm happy to see them grow. They do a good job, but within, And I'm not bothered by the lights, but I'm in the front. I can't even address that, but thank you for listening.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public?
Hi, my name is Joanne Patterson. I live at 406 Twin Oaks Drive. I am the second house from the exit of the current parking lot. So I'm on the same side of the school, and I'm right there. I'll have to go along and say I was a little surprised at the letter that we received from the township. I have not seen any of the drawings or any of the proposals or any of the changes. I understand they are somewhere in the school district website, but as far as notification for the letters, we did not receive anything at all with that. And as far as parking, I'm right there at the lot, and I'm right there at the exit. I think it was last summer or the summer before where they put that sidewalk in that goes all the way around to the back. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but they took away, I guess, some of the green space along, which would be the buffer from my house over, and they put a sidewalk in. They don't use it. I mean, everyone still crosses the exit parking lot and crosses the entrance parking lot and then goes to the school. The kids are not directed to go around the back of the building where that sidewalk was installed, so I don't really understand, what the principle of that was, but that's the one thing that does concern me. Glen Arbor Road concerns me a lot in the morning. I have relatives that live on Glen Arbor, and without that traffic, and I know you said that's a different issue, but without that coming in one direction, somebody's going to get hit there, and I don't know how it hasn't happened already. There are parents that block your parking lot, which I say your driveway exit. They'll park right in front of there, and then there's somebody across the street and somebody trying to get a kid across the street. So I really do believe that Glen Arbor should be, at least for the school block, made to be in one direction, and it needs to be something that's looked at. But I'll go back to the fact that I think that the residents within, what did you say, 200 or whatever it is, I think they should have received at least a draft of what the proposal is, because when I talk to my neighbors, they don't even know what the proposed new addition is, where the parking lot's coming, where the old tennis courts were, because that's what was over on that side at one time, and which way the additions are going. And that's just one of the things, and I hate to lose those trees in the front. That's a beautiful sight that we all love. And that's going to take away from the neighborhood too. So I'm hoping whatever they do with the parking lot in front of, I think, the cafeteria, maybe, is that where it's going? That they do something with an island and do something that gives us a little bit more of the trees back in that area. So that's just my comment.
You said trees back, does that mean they're gone? Or you're concerned that they're going to go?
They're going to go. I'm pretty sure they're going. At least from what I heard, maybe 6 of them or something along the walkway, but I don't know the exact numbers of what they're doing there. But I certainly hope, somebody told me that was at one time a Girl Scout project that they were planted way back in the early 60s. And so we'll see what happens. But I would like and do think that our neighborhood should receive at least a rough drawing of exactly what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any other public comments? Are there any further comments from the board? Are there any?
I'm just curious, did the school district kind of reach out to the neighborhood and say, this is what we're doing? Did they have any type of,
I'd have
meeting
to ask,
that-
other than putting it on the website, I'd have to ask specifically.
how would you know to look on the website?
I don't know, so I'll have to get an answer on that.
I mean, this is the reason we asked that certified mail be sent out to
Right.
people living within 200 feet, specifically for the reason that no one knows what's going on. And this is where I think I said last time, we take a lot of heat thinking it's our fault that we don't notify people, okay? So, that ordinance is written for a reason, and it's important that we follow that ordinance.
Yeah, I know there was a PTO meeting. I don't know what how they sent that out, so I'll have to find out.
I'll wager that a lot of people live in that neighborhood don't have kids to go to school, okay?
Sure.
So they don't know what the PTO is doing.
Sure.
It's also ultimately, I found, beneficial to the people like yourself who want to develop a property or make changes to a property to get community buy-in at an earlier stage. Regardless of what the rules require for certified mail, getting the word out early, having community meetings and the like is usually a good idea. there are a number of concerns about parking and traffic. And you said, well, we're not going to ask for a variance. Maybe that's something that you could review and let us know. You mentioned something about a director of transportation. Is that what you said?
Well, there's a few things. We spoke to the Director of Transportation to answer questions on the buses. So that's his department. Then we speak with district administration. You all had questions about parking, removing the parking lot in the back. But after further review, the district feels like they need the additional parking. And we're meeting the township ordinance as it's written, so.
But you could ask for a variance. You're just not planning to do that right now.
Correct. The direction is that we are not asking for a variance.
Maybe you could reconsider in light of the comments.
I'm happy to discuss it again with the administration, but that's the direction that we've been given at this point.
And sometimes people say, well, we'll comply. That's what we should do. But sometimes when it's put a different way, they say, well, yeah, we could do it another way.
Understood.
There's also this comment about preserving trees.
Yes, so.
For the benefit of the
Hoping I
neighborhood.
can answer a few of the questions. So the new lighting will be LED lighting. There is new lighting going all around the building. So I'll get the cut sheets on that, but generally it's supposed to be what's, cut off light to your point, and it doesn't shine directly out. The new parking lot lighting will be flathead lighting, similar to what's in there now, and that has zero cutoff, and that some of the photometrics will be submitted for that, so that there is no spillage over, kind of similar to the high school turf field lighting. So that takes care of that. Joanne, as far as the trees, so there are some trees that have to go. The 6 main cherry trees in the front stay. Those do stay. The sidewalk gets removed. And there's 105 or 10 new trees that we're planting all throughout the property, all over the place. So there are a couple trees that have to go, unfortunately, to accommodate the addition and the loading dock. But there were additional trees planted above and beyond what was required, about 20 additional trees.
So the trees that are lost don't have to do with the parking. They have to do with the building.
Mostly,
And the loading dock.
mostly with the building. There's a couple that are removed because of the parking lots, but a few of the bigger trees are because of the addition. So hopefully that addresses everyone's questions.
Any other comments?
I had one question. I guess, is there like a sense of timing of what would happen, future schedule of, is this going to go on for another couple months, and like how much more information would be available to the public as the, process progresses?
You mean just a timeline of what the goal is for
Yeah,
construction?
sort of like a design as you get through construction, what the public comment period is.
I mean, the goal was to, either get approval tonight or at the next meeting for recommendation to the Board of Commissioners. The goal would be to start construction this summer. And to your point, we do have to follow township noise ordinance. So,
You'll give me your name and number.
will be, I'm not going to sit here and say that may not happen. It will. But generally speaking, it's written that way, and, we try and deal with it certainly as much as possible. There will be very limited weekend work. It can happen, it may happen, especially in the summer, but really the bulk of the new addition work is done during the school year. And really a lot of work next summer is all internal, inside the building, except for finishing the parking lot.
What are the construction hours?
Township noise ordinance is nothing outside over, X decibels, which is basically, you can't 8 o'clock until 7 or 8 o'clock at night. So the workers will typically come in around 7. Again, the outside noise and equipment work can't start till 8. And then they'll generally work till 3-ish, depending on the trade, 3 to 4 o'clock.
So it is 8 to 6. But
It's 8 to 6.
yes, any construction work is exempt during the hours of 8 to 6.
Correct.
Those are the hours.
So, work internal to the building, they'll come in early and do that. But yes, there are folks that will not follow the rules. That is going to happen.
I know you don't have a copy yet. I'm not going to use my paper copy if one of the residents wants to take this with you tonight so that you can share it with the neighbors.
actually found it.
You found it?
It took me a while, but
Okay.
I found them and it answered the questions. I was
Okay.
concerned that they were gonna take the field in front.
And did you find them as well on the website, sir?
No, I haven't, but it sounds like they're on the school website.
They were not on the school.
The full set of plans, the presentations would be on there. I don't believe the full set of plans are on there. That would be in the township website.
Jamie said that she's working on uploading them, not yet. So I'm happy to share my paper copy if you guys want to take this with you.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
All right, thanks very much.
Before you leave, I think you got to pay attention to the township engineer's comments regarding traffic control, okay? I know school's over, right? So to get somebody out there to really evaluate what's going on and make recommendations on how it can be improved, we've lost that opportunity because
No, actually, the traffic engineer was on site during the busy time, both in the morning and in the afternoon for all of that. So I'm certainly happy to ask him for any
maybe it might
additional
be a good idea
comments.
to bring him along with you next time so we can ask him questions and he can answer us and give us details and facts that you may not have access to.
Sure.
Thanks.
Next item on our agenda is 102 West Eagle Road, sketch plan.
Good evening. The board is ready. Let people clear out. It's always nice when we don't have any, no, just kidding. I was gonna say the public. Anyway, my name is David Shafkowitz. I'm an attorney. I'm here on behalf of the owner of a parcel of property known as West 102.
Excuse me 1 second, I just have a question.
Sure.
Is anyone here for the Claremont
Sorry.
Boulevard minor subdivision plan? Do you know if that's going to go forward tonight?
Yeah, it's just an administrative sign off on their component 4A.
Yeah, I thought so.
We're doing a planning lot.
Okay, sorry. Could
Sorry.
you say your name again, please?
First name is David. Shafkowitz is the last name, Shafkowitz. And I'm here on behalf of Venera Properties, is the owner of parcel property located at 102 West Eagle Road. It's property located in the Township C3 General Commercial Zoning District, consisting of about 18,565 square feet, and is currently improved with a gas station and auto repair shop that, as I understand it, is slowly turning into a junkyard. So we're here tonight to present a plan to redevelop the site to a convenience store gas station. Interestingly enough, the convenience store component of it is something of a use that is permitted under the C3 zoning district. The gas, which is a pre-existing non-conforming use, is not permitted in the district, but we intend to continue it. The good news is we're looking to redevelop the entire site, take everything down, rebuild new. And we were looking for the board's feedback on what's being proposed. Hopefully, the board will see our proposal as something that could benefit the community in terms of eliminating what may be considered an eyesore today and creating something that is very useful to the community going forward. With me tonight is Scott Mill, who is our planner, landscape architect, who will describe a little bit more detail the existing site and what's being proposed. And like I said, we're here looking for everybody's feedback. This is our opportunity to hear what you guys believe the community can benefit from in relation to the potential redevelopment of this site. So, having said that, I'll turn it over to Scott.
A question. I haven't looked at the C3 zoning since you just mentioned it.
Yeah.
But in C3 zoning, you said that the convenience store was permitted in C3 zoning.
We understand that retail is permitted, yeah.
Does C3 permit two commercial uses?
Well,
So you would
there's
have
two
one be the gas station and the second be not really an accessory, but a second commercial use.
Well, I would disagree. I think it's
Perhaps
been
you're
pretty
right.
clear that gas is accessory to convenience or vice versa, but nevertheless, you have two commercial uses there now. So we intend to continue that nonconformity to the extent that two commercial uses aren't permitted. But I haven't looked in detail whether or not more than one commercial use is permitted on a property. But hopefully that, if it's something, if that becomes an issue, that's the one thing that would discourage the redevelopment of the property, and we would just leave it alone versus trying to redevelop it into something that would be more useful for the community overall. So having said that, I'm just going to have Scott talk a little bit more detail about what does exist and what's being proposed.
All right. Good evening, Scott Mill with Van Cleef Engineering. I brought 3 plans with me tonight. The first one's an aerial photograph. The second one is the plan as it was submitted. After that, we received a review letter from Mr. Faulkner, and we made some changes to the plan to address some of the comments. So kind of informally, as we are here with a sketch plan, to be able to present that plan to you as well. I know it can be sometimes difficult to see that second plan for the first time, but I think it helps address a lot of the comments, and it's not too intricate that, it would be tough to follow. As Dave mentioned, the property is about 18,565 square feet. It's at the corner of West Eagle Road and Grassland Avenue. The property is commercial, as are the surrounding properties, including the two most nearest properties to the rear, even though that orange dashed line represents the break between the C3 zoning district commercial and R6 medium density residential. Again, this is a commercial use. It's Gans Plumbing, which I understand has been there for decades. And the building itself is pretty much right on the property line. As mentioned, there is a gas station and service station, which you can kind of see by this L-shaped building out in the front. The protrusion there is are the gas pumps, and in the back is a more rectangular portion of the building, which is the service station portion, as well as a small convenience area. As Dave mentioned, it's kind of slowly turning into a junkyard, and you can see that with the aerial photograph, all the cars that are there. I was there again today. There are even more cars out there than when this area was taken. There are 2 points of access on each street frontage, 2 along West Eagle Road and then 2 along Grassland. The 2 that are closest to the intersection itself would be removed, and we would relocate the 2 that are farther. Due to the configuration we're proposing, it moves them a little bit closer to the intersection, but certainly not nearly as close as the 2 existing that are there today. The site is basically 100% impervious right now. Between the building coverage, the paved area, the compacted stone, the entire site is impervious. There's really no vegetation to speak of. With that, I'll move to sketch plan as submitted. The idea with this would be to remove the existing canopy and take down the existing service station part of the plant or part of the site, and reconstruct a retail building kind of towards the back corner, reconstruct the canopy over the 2 existing pumps, as well as add 2 pumps. We would also add parking, which would be defined, delineated by curbing and striped to spruce that up and to provide a more readily available or a well-defined traffic pattern around the property. You can see the 2 openings that would remain. Again, this one along Grassland would be moved closer. This one along West Eagle would also be moved a little bit closer to the intersection to provide ingress and egress and access to the parking along both sides. You can see the green on this plan. That represents the area that was impervious that would be converted to landscaping of some sort or the other. Overall, we're reducing impervious by about 4,000 square feet, going from 100%. This plan shows it being reduced to about 78% impervious. It's still a little above the ordinance requirement of 75%, but it is a reduction of an existing nonconformity and gets us closer to that threshold. The building itself in the back would be 60 feet by 30 feet, and we're showing it here about 8 feet from the tract boundary line. And again, the existing building that's there on the adjoiner is right up against the tract boundary. The commercial/apartment building, as you're looking at the plan to the left, is also fairly close to the tract boundary. So we're not any closer than either of those buildings with the proposal. So with that, we did receive a review letter from Mr. Faulkner. If you'd like to go through that, it's not a rather lengthy one, so we can kind of go through, if it suits you, we can go through comment by comment and kind of go through the plan. The first one, he talks about being a non-conforming use, and the gas station is not permitted in this district, but that's an existing use that we'd be looking to continue with the proposed plan. The second one is there's a requirement for a 20-foot front yard along both streets. With the expansion of the canopy, we'd be requesting zoning relief for a variance to allow for 9 feet. And the reason for that is the canopy as it's situated now barely extends past the gas pumps. And with today's standards in inclement weather, you want to be able to provide a little more overhang so people, as they're getting in and out of their cars and pumping their gas, have a little more shelter than what would have been provided with the existing canopy that's there. So again, we'd be asking for zoning relief for that. Comment 3 talks about the impervious, which I covered, that existing is 100%. We'd be looking to go down to, with this plan, 78% with the reduction by about 4,000 square feet. And again, the existing nonconformity there.
Could you just explain
Sure.
what you're changing?
In terms of
I've had trouble following the negative and the positive.
the impervious?
Yes,
So right now, the entire site is covered with
that's
whether
100%.
building, paving, compacted stone, which is considered impervious. With this proposed plan, what you see in green are the areas that would be converted to landscaping. Whether it's a mulch bed or turf lawn or combination, we haven't gone to that level of detail yet, but just the green to represent that it's not impervious.
So it's still non-conforming, but less.
Much closer to conforming, and it's a reduction in impervious, yeah. Number 4 talks about the parking lot and a requirement of 5-foot separation from property lines. And that would be another existing nonconformity along, as you're looking at the plan, the left side of the plan, where it's just kind of a haphazard edge of the paving that's there now. Again, we'd clean that up, curb it to help define it. And we're no closer to the existing property line with the proposed parking than what's out there today. We'd also be looking to add a 6-foot solid panel fence to help provide some buffering. Number 5, a planted visual buffer or buffer planting strip of 10 feet is required between commercial and residential properties. Again, that would be the line at the top of the plan where the zoning district boundary line creates this property being commercial, the property behind it being technically zoned residential, but used as commercial. But we're proposing with this plan an 8-foot gap in there rather than the 10-foot. So based on this plan and the review letter, we would need zoning relief for that. 6 is a comment about planting trees and having to discuss with the Shade Tree Commission. We would certainly follow the procedures and protocol of the township, work with township staff, work with the reviews, and work with the ordinances in the design requirements for planting and landscaping. Number 7 talks about the loading lane or loading area, and that it's proposed in the front yard, which you can see that we show an 18-foot wide loading area here between the building and Grassland Avenue. We did provide a fairly wide, about 16-foot wide grass or landscape strip that we could buffer between that loading area and Grassland. But nevertheless, we would need relief for that. And number 8 talks about lighting. That's something we typically don't address at sketch plan. It's good to have in a review letter to make sure we don't lose sight of it, but that would be something, as part of this land development, that would be a whole redo as well. It would be new lighting, and it would be, the intent, at least as of now, would be to comply with the township ordinances. Number 9 talks about regulations related to gas stations. That section is actually related to, I guess, the C4 district, which this is C3, and specific criteria related to gas stations. I'm not exactly sure how applicable they are to something like this being in the C3. That's something our attorney might be able to weigh in on at some point. But we would certainly, as much as we could comply, we would certainly comply. Number 10, requiring a traffic impact study for any kind of commercial or industrial use. We'd have to take a look at that and see where we are with that. Not sure how this would compare with retail versus the existing service station, but we would take a look at that. Sewage facilities planning module, we would work with that, and we are proposing to sewer the building, water and sewer for the building. Number 12, it's unclear where the underground fuel storage tanks are located. Existing today, they're kind of in this middle area along Grassland Avenue. They would be relocated over to the left side of the site. And then 13 is stormwater management. I have to take a look at the ordinance requirements. Our thought is we're reducing the impervious by almost 25%. So the hope would be that that's enough of a stormwater, an impact on stormwater, that no additional facilities would be necessary. And then the last one's a highway occupancy permit for any work done in PennDOT right away, which we'd certainly have to secure that as well, or those. So based on the comments we got, I took another crack at the plan. And I won't go through a lengthy description. I'll just kind of go through the highlights. But we reduced the size of the building. Instead of being 60 by 30, it's now 28 by 54. And we flipped the loading area to be on the back side of it, reduced the width from 18 feet to 14 feet, which is still wide enough to accommodate trucks as they're unloading, or the vehicle, the fuel trucks as they're unloading. And then we show a 10-foot strip or a buffer along the back of the building, which now complies with that requirement. Just to kind of give it some little artistic license, I added some street trees along Grassland, and to the extent possible, added a street tree at the lower left corner along West Eagle Road, and then show some buffer planting along the back and the left side. And those are the kind of the general changes that we made. And we also further reduced the impervious from 78% to about 75%. So we actually are compliant with the zoning ordinance with this plan. Yes.
Is the gas station footprint, the non-conforming gas station, is that footprint, is the size of that gas station remaining the same?
Well, the gas station, I think of the service station. So that is increasing in size, but it's moving to the back of the property. And it's being converted to retail. There are 2 existing gas pumps. We would be adding 2 additional gas pumps. Correct.
The non-conforming portion, the gas portion, is non-conforming. That's getting bigger. You're adding.
We're adding 2 gas pumps. I don't know technically if that's the gas station, or is it the gas pumps plus the service station is the gas station. I don't know exactly where one ends and one begins. So if it's just the pumps, yeah, we're increasing the size.
If I had to get gas from this facility, how would I get into that site?
So there are 4 entrances currently now as it exists.
Four ingress.
Right.
And how many egress?
2 on Grassland and 2 on West Eagle.
Have you ever been to that intersection before?
Yeah, I was there as
On a Friday
recent as
night?
today.
Yeah, okay.
So the
What's
idea would
the
be,
width of the total property?
it's about 119 feet, 120 feet side to side. But we are removing the 2 access points closest to the intersection.
So if I came in from the side street, how would I get out? Go out onto Eagle Road?
Or you could go back out onto Grassland. You'd be able to go all the way around the pumps.
Seems pretty congested to me for that to work in that fashion. And also, you said you had 2 uses on the site right now, one being a gas station and one being a commercial use?
The gas pumps and the auto repair.
It is an auto repair, okay.
Yeah, the building's got 3 garage bays for auto service, auto repair.
Okay, and I mean, again, I'm brainstorming this with you, but if a truck comes in to put gas into the storage tanks, how big do you think that truck's going to be?
They're usually semi-trucks, WB62s, WB67s. That can be arranged to be off hours, so it's reducing of congestion. We would be moving the gas tanks over to the upper left corner, so a gas fueling truck could back in, unload, and then pull out.
And deliveries made to the convenience store would be through the front door, right?
I don't know if it'll be the front door, the loading area on the side. There might be a side door that would be added as well.
Okay.
And I think deliveries generally would be off hours as well.
Gut reaction, the site seems to be kind of tight. I know you're asking for our thoughts. It seems like it's very tight for what is being proposed.
Thank you.
How many, you talked about 4 pumps. How many fueling locations are there? 8?
8.
Okay.
8 dispensers.
8 dispensers, okay. So it's really 8 pumps, each pump. Yeah, okay.
That's my thinking too, but I was
So there's-
learned how that each dispenser or each pump has 2 dispensers. I was educated on that
Just
when
out
we
of
started working on. We've done a few gas stations over the last couple of years, and that was one of the first things I was educated on. But yeah, it's 2 dispensers per pump.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, when's the last time they pumped gas there? A year, okay. You know that if you, at least my interpretation of the zoning code, if you abandon the use for 6 months, it goes away. It's unenforceable? Okay. All right. There's other items in the original approval that kind of restrict who can use that as a gas station. Are you familiar with that?
No.
Oh, okay.
Prior approval. I guess what we're looking at is then, what I'm getting a sense of is that we're trying to redevelop the site.
Understand.
But if nobody's interested in that, we'd be happy to just leave it the way it is. But we obviously, it needs some work, needs some relief. We're looking for some feedback on it. But I'm getting the sense that I'm just getting feedback that says, don't do it.
I'm sorry, that's really premature and kind of childish to come up here and
I
threaten
don't
us
need
with
to
just
be
leaving it
insulted
as.
by that. I'm just asking.
You've heard from 2 people so far. You haven't even heard from the whole board. So
I'm sorry that you feel that way, but that's really, you talk about insulting, calling me childish. I've been practicing law for 30 years. I'm 55 years old. I don't need anybody need to call me childish. I've raised 4 kids all through college. That's not really appropriate. Nevertheless, that's what we're looking for. I understand that you guys have concerns about it being tight. I agree. We want the circulation to work and be happy to provide turning templates and all the types of things. If it turns out that the 4 pump locations is too much, we can make adjustments on that as well.
You have to look at the original approval of this project, which goes back to 1957.
Right.
And there's some wording in here that is really unusual.
and I have a copy here if you want to take a quick look at it.
Yeah, please.
Look at item number 3 and tell me what you think.
So you're saying, so it looks like what part of this
That's-
is,
The zoning board said that in 1957.
right, they
Why-
granted,
Why don't you read what it says?
I read what it says.
No, the board.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you guys were familiar with it. It says here, said special exception, which is a different use, a different,
It's for the gas station, yeah,
well, it says it was granted a special exception,
for the gas station.
right?
Okay.
It says it's a non-assignable personal privilege granted to the applicant and it shall not run with the land upon the conveyance or leasing thereof and is limited to the uses authorized herein. But again, zoning relief only runs with the land. There's no way that a zoning hearing board can say it's not
Okay,
assignable.
all right. So there's.
I don't
legal-
know, that to me, I don't know if
There's
1957.
legal issues
Where they thought that.
in regards to that statement and whether or not they can enforce the 6-month rule.
Well, the law of Pennsylvania, which I'm a zoning hearing board solicitor as well, is pretty clear on what abandonment is. And there's plenty of ordinances that all have the same thing.
Okay.
The idea is that if we tore the pumps out
Right.
and completely decided not to use it as a gas station or evidence that intent, then we would be deemed abandoned under state law.
Okay.
The Pennsylvania Supreme Court has said that's what you have to demonstrate.
But do you retain the right to demolish what's there and still have it considered a non-conforming use once you demolish it?
The idea is we're coming through for an approval to do that. You see?
Right, okay. But
So-
I don't think you can say that you're
If we
entitled.
demolished it, then we wouldn't be able to.
Okay,
We
I
wouldn't be
don't
able
know
to
if you
make
can
it.
say you're entitled to a non-conforming use, then demolish it and build something new that's non-conforming. I think when you go to the zoning board, if you go, you're gonna need approval for the gas station as well. I don't think you can claim it's a non-conformity that you're entitled to.
I understand what you're saying, but I did completely disagree. And like I said, doing this for as long as I have, the idea is that when you have an existing non-conforming use, it can be continued. And the part that's interesting is Pennsylvania is called a commonwealth, right? In other places, Jersey's called a state, whatever. The commonwealth is because they have very strong, in the Constitution, protections for personal property rights. And that is one of them.
Okay.
The
We
pre-existing
understand.
non-conforming nature.
David, we do, some of us understand that.
Okay,
And
but I
Pennsylvania
just-
has a very strong non-conforming use doctrine that allows continuation of non-conforming uses.
Right.
However, as a property right, as a constitutional right.
Yeah.
But
I
they
don't-
can be abandoned, and sometimes the law is clear as mud on that issue,
The law is usually clear as mud on many issues, but
especially
in this-
zoning issues.
In this one, it's interesting because I had one particular case in my township where there was a church and they were trying to convert the church to a senior, like a center type thing. And they were saying they were going to still continue some kind of services, the like, but because they took the pews out of the church, they could no longer say they were maintaining that use, even though we had the same provision. After a year of not using it, it's be deemed abandoned. But the fact that they actually took those steps to abandon it is why we ended up winning on appeal in that particular case.
We being against the,
Me, at the time when I was a township zoning hearing board solicitor. Here,
so they were not able to continue because they had
because
abandoned the use.
they had those specific steps
Okay.
to take it. Here, we're not taking those steps to tear it out, and if we tore it out more than a year ago, absolutely would agree with everything you're saying. I think, and we're not here to I don't want to fight with you over it,
No, I
and I
understand.
appreciate that it's issues, and I also appreciate, in this particular instance where this is located, if we were in the middle of a residential zone or those types of things, I would be advising my client that trying to reuse this as a commercial use may not be as appropriate, but here we're surrounded by mostly commercial uses. We have other users that are violating the zoning ordinances all around us in terms of their setbacks and being on our property line and not being able to do things. Nevertheless, we've made all these adjustments to try to get as compliant as we can with the idea that we want to be a neighborhood gas station, want to be a neighborhood convenience store, no cooking, nothing but pure convenience in terms of sodas, milk, snacks, that type of thing, and an opportunity for people to be able to use the station, which right now, it's in pretty horrible state of repair, and that's a tenant we're in the process of removing, ultimately gonna have to remove anyway.
Two other things that I have. The township has what they call Eagle Road Design Standards.
For
And,
architectural.
right, what you have to look at is what was done, like across the street. There's a health center there.
The urgent care?
Urgent care. And basically, what we're requiring is a grass strip that be installed between the curb and the sidewalk. And then there's a little bit of architectural improvements that separate the sidewalk from the parking area. The YMCA down the street is another good example of what those standards look like. There's specific requirements for street lighting and things like that. All that will have an impact on your site design, okay? So you need to look at those standards and incorporate those standards into your site plan.
And I think that is absolutely imperative for something like this, because I think on that side, we have the opportunity now to do that. And what the building will look like, even what the canopy can look like in terms of the architectural designs as well, let alone the other features you're talking about.
Our goal is to make Eagle Road walkable by pedestrians. We would like to have it become a neighborhood area that people can walk to stores and things like that.
Just the sidewalk.
But it's right up against the curb.
The other thing I want to point out is the reason the standards for our gas stations are in C4 is because gas stations aren't permitted in C3. If they were, we'd have to require those standards, all right? And
I'm just so used to use categories and the various uses being separate from the zoning districts that they're located, that, this would apply to any gas station, but that is written elsewhere in the ordinance. I didn't think to look in C4 for parameters in C3.
But the idea is if there's design criteria to take them into
That has to be
consideration for
followed.
this. Yes.
And finally, stormwater management, because all your impervious, even though you're reducing it by 25% or to 75%, all the impervious is going to be considered new impervious. So you have to provide stormwater management for 75% impervious or whatever you end up with. That's the way the stormwater management ordinance is written right now. So you can't, the fact that you reduce the impervious is great, but it doesn't really get you out of doing stormwater management.
Fair enough.
Are you familiar with the new ordinance in Haverford Township regarding?
Stormwater?
There's a new ordinance in Haverford Township regarding sale of tobacco and related products like vaping products and also games of skill, which, are you familiar with that new
I'm not
ordinance?
familiar with your ordinance. I'm familiar with those types of things, and that's not our intent here. Our intent is to be like a convenience store. Our intent is a convenience store. It would be.
The games of skill are prohibited in convenience stores.
Okay. Yeah, I know that's
almost throughout the township.
And that's the new thing. Yeah, I know that's a new thing that a lot of off-branded convenience stores are going for that.
So there's no intention here to
No,
see
the
games
idea
of skill.
is.
And there's also ratios of tobacco sale as a percentage of
Total sales.
total sales.
I'm thrilled by that, believe me, because everywhere you see is every strip center now is a vape shop, and it's just driving me nuts because my kids do it and it drives me nuts. But the idea is just regular cigarette sales, whatever appropriate ratio that would be, is really what's intended. Like I said, snacks, sodas, pure convenience, eggs, milk, that kind of thing. But I appreciate you letting us know because it's important for this purpose. And I don't want anybody to think that that's what our intent is. And I also think that we are working with a couple of, the reason why Ramaco Fuels, which is the parent kind of company of this operation, is actually a gas supplier. They've had leased out a lot of these stations for just to supply the gas to the operators, but now they're taking most of them back and are working on having most of them branded. So there's just as much of a chance that this would be a Marathon or a Sunoco or something along those lines when it's finished, not just an off-branded, gas station that would, you might see those vape shops or other things developed that aren't as appropriate. So, but I'm glad you let us know.
Within the last few months.
Yeah, no, it's good to know.
At one time, there was at least 4 gas stations between Ivy Road and Lawrence Road on Eagle Road.
I know, and I don't want to tell you that we have another one that we want to redevelop too, but I figure we'll save that one for later. Let's one at a time. I don't think it's that close to this though, is it? It's not far, Westchester. Okay. But I think getting all this feedback and getting the approach that we want and the things that we have to look at, giving Scott that guidance, that it would, after we hear everybody's comments, it'd probably be appropriate to come back with a revised sketch and kind of work through that first, not just jump into any engineering and stuff along those lines.
Yeah, okay, I'll go. Eagle Road here, it has a center turning lane? Yes, correct?
Yes, Eagle Road is.
Okay. Just thinking about egress, so it's hard for me to read. Is there a grass strip there? So what's our entrance curb
We have
cut?
some handouts for you.
Okay.
So the top page is the plan as it was submitted. Bottom one is.
So, but while Scott's handing that out, Eagle Road, the English Point, put this in, where I think there's 2 now.
Thank you.
One would be eliminated, this maintained, at least that's what's proposed here. And on Grassland, I think there's one closer to the intersection, the one that's furthest back is the one.
Right, okay. All right, so then sidewalk is being maintained around,
Yes. So there's not, it'll be installed.
Yeah, so there's existing sidewalk out there today, but it does run adjacent to the curb, and you can see it all the way down Eagle Road on both sides of Grassland. So the plan as of now was to provide a little grass strip on the back side of the sidewalk, but we'll have to take another look at that and see how we can improve that based on the.
so we were clarifying before, so there's currently 2 gas pumps, 4 dispensers then? Okay, so I'm just thinking about the number of vehicles, so you could have 8 vehicles parked at the pumps, and then, what do we have, 8 plus 5 parking spaces. Is that the minimum necessary parking spaces for the retail area?
Ordinance requires 9. So
So you're
we're
providing
adding a few extra parking spaces.
More parking than you would need, okay. Do you have a sense of kind of the breakdown of your anticipated retail sales in terms of the convenience store versus the pumps? And the purpose for my question, what I'm trying to understand is, are the 8 dispensers the driving component for your financial considerations, or is the convenience store the financial consideration? Because if the pumps are just extra and the main income is coming from the retail, do we need to have that many pumps? And only because I'm considering because of the orientation of the pumps, that they're parallel to Eagle Road, a vehicle I'm just thinking about if you're turning left from Eagle Road to get into the pump and the only available pump are the front ones, that can be a little bit of a tight turn. And depending on how people are then swinging out and around or backing out of those pumps, say someone is in front of them, they don't want to get around them, they want to go back out onto Eagle Road, and they're backing out as someone's turning in left. That front pump there just gives me some concern about that traffic movement.
And conflicts
And conflicts there. So going back to my question, from a financial consideration, and you don't have to necessarily provide an answer today, but I'm just curious what factors went into your decision to increase the number of pumps, because you've now decreased the size of your convenience store building, but left the pumps at 8 dispensers.
Regarding the breakdown and the value of the pumps versus the retail, I'm not the one that would be able to address that or answer that. I don't know if Matt or Dave would be able to at this point in time. But in terms of traffic, we are, moving this intersection, this entrance a little bit closer. still, these two pumps are, where, they're staying where they're at today. So we're not moving them.
I couldn't see which two.
The two closer to Eagle Road. Those two are as they exist. They'll be cleaned up and spruced up, new dispensers. But location-wise, they'll be where they are.
And I do appreciate that you're proposing to clean up the site. My earlier comment was simply, I don't appreciate being threatened by non-action. So I appreciate the efforts here. Okay. And I'm not opposed to the redevelopment, the use of the site. It's a common thing. So in terms of the other gas stations, we were saying that there used to be more on Eagle Road. So what is your service area here? And from a proximity standpoint, what other gas
Trying to reach
stations?
Yeah, I'm not, that's more the marketing end, more of the financial end of things. That's not in my bailiwick. I just draw what are hopefully pretty pictures and design it to township standards. Again, I unfortunately, I don't have an answer for you.
Yeah,
The closest one is on Library Road, right below Eagle. There's a gas station there.
with the one that's on the corner that's also a blank slate?
No, it's down the street from that.
Oh, I'm
Going
sorry,
south on
yes,
Library Road.
in the
They-
triangle.
They charge a lot of money for their gas.
They do charge a lot of money for
And then
that
there's
gas.
I think a Sunoco station
I'd be
down at
curious
the
to know why
corner
that
of
happens.
Westchester Pike and Eagle Road.
It's all about the fuel supply.
Yeah.
So it's like, this guy's probably like the fourth guy in, and this guy's got to make money, that guy's got to make money. Gas is so expensive. But to answer that other question where you were wondering, it's an interesting dichotomy because you want to do volume and gas, but there's so little margin. So you have to do a little bit more. The convenience store doesn't really do a lot. Arguably, I would think $5 or $10 grand isn't a lot. So it's a combination of both things that have to work, the whole thing to work. One of the things that Matt and I are talking about, because Matt is in-house with the company, and maybe one of the things that could maybe these front pumps get fine and there's only one pump here instead of two. And that would kind of make that turn a little bit easier. It discourage that, we want it to be busy, but we don't want people circulating the site constantly. So if they can see up front that the pumps are busy, on to the next one, it's not far away, but that might be one of the considerations. The other kind of design thing, I'm not sure it'd be as nice, is that, we've been doing ones where we have the pumps on either side, and in the middle, we'll put the building. But it won't be like a huge building, it'll just be, it's a center island kind of thing. Pumps are on either side, you've seen those designs. It's another idea, and maybe we could work on a sketch to show that to you guys too, just see ultimately how the site circulates, if it circulates better. Certainly that would eliminate any setback issues, even though Scott was creative enough to be able to do that, create some more buffering. So those are some of the things, and with depending, that might even get our convenience store smaller, so less parking would be needed.
Yeah, I actually think that might be a really good option to look at, just because if you look at where there's other places that function as a convenience store, right across the road you have CVS, and even though it's mostly a pharmacy, I know the middle school kids hit that hard with snacks. And then if you go further down the road, there's Swiss Farms, which functions more as a drive-through, but that's a convenience store. And then across the street, up a little bit closer to this, we have the 7-Eleven, which would be very similar to what you're proposing in snacks.
They're a little bit more expanded.
Yeah, I think these might sell.
But so, because we were just talking about one where designing in New Jersey, do that kind of thing, a much tighter site, kind of like a corner triangle thing. That layout worked really well, and that's something we can put back to you guys next month. Or these other designs.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that. I think having the three pumps, 6 dispensers would definitely clear up some of that kind of curvature in the circulation patterns in the front of the site there. And then I was just thinking about, again, the orientation of the pumps, if it makes sense to have them oriented the other way so that the cars are parallel to grassland instead of,
We'll have to figure, there was a thought process about that.
oh, okay,
I can't tell you what it is right now.
okay.
Usually, what you're thinking of is turning, I thought our boss, his boss, wanted them, but I don't know if the circulation will work as well. If they were what's called perpendicular to the store. So you actually like the people pull in and like looking at the store, like, oh, I'll go in, you know, that kind of thing, instead of looking like they're on the wrong side, it's harder to get to the store. You know what I mean? So there was usually a thought process that would have them perpendicular. Here we did parallel because they may be better for circulation, but we'll look at that.
Yeah, because,
And the idea was also to keep the two pumps that are up
Oh,
front.
they're there already, that's
Yeah.
the other thing.
Yeah.
Make it consistent. That's why.
okay, yeah, because I'm thinking, because if all 8 cars are parked up there, then somebody who's walking from the, what is that, easternmost pump closest to Eagle Road to get to the convenience store would have less of a pathway and may end up walking in the drive aisles. You know what I'm saying?
No, you're absolutely right. So maybe that was our fault because when Scott designed it, we didn't think about those pumps could be taken out. Trying to make reuse of them. We're not taking all the pumps out. But one way or another, that might make sense.
Yeah, I'd be curious just to see how that would work, and then if we can, put some boxes that represent vehicle dimensions to understand.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be great to see that, just to get a better appreciation for how much space there is for maneuverability, because ultimately I support the overall concept of redeveloping the site. I overall would recommend and support the use of the site, but the circulation is always going to be the main concern when we're talking about gas stations, because they're always a madhouse, and we have to design them as best that we can to try to mitigate unintended negative consequences.
The difference between American cars and European cars, yes, sides, havoc everywhere. I don't know why they couldn't figure that out. Ages ago, right? That was on the same side of the car.
The other nut you're going to have to crack is PennDOT, okay? All right. Because we had a project on the corner of Eagle and Darby, and they basically said no left turns out of the site. On Eagle down on Darby, yeah, that busy intersection there. So I don't know if you have a traffic engineer.
No, we'll bring a traffic guy.
Okay, you might have him take a look at it. Personally, I think you're better off with two driveways on Eagle Road, one going in and one going out, but you lose the left turn out of the site. But that's just my opinion. No.
This isn't lighted here, it's just this stuff.
Right.
There's a part of me that is like, I'm comfortable with restricting onto Eagle because if I get a full movement on here, because then people can get where they want to go. Leave the site here, and people learn that, because my guess is we're not going to get a random person coming into town. Oh, let me go here and get they might, but it's going to be mostly neighborhood people who are going to learn patterns. Part of me, if PennDOT says, let me left turn only, no right turn, we still can make it work. I just think the second curb cut, how people are if you don't, they'll decide to go wherever they want. I'd rather not give them out.
Okay. One last question from me. Are there any environmental issues with the existing tanks?
With the existing tanks, I hope not. But it was
You have to open up the ground to find out. So
You haven't done anything yet?
no.
Okay.
Thought it was already.
But yeah, whatever's there, because we're taking them out.
Well, yeah, we're gonna relocate.
So,
do that, you have to take all
whatever weed has to be done. Are you guys familiar with the underground storage tank in Germantown? USTIF it's called. So this is one thing sorry to do this, but it's just to give some comfort. There's a statewide insurance fund it's a tax on gas. That we pay when we buy gas, goes into an insurance fund. So users of stations don't hide from there is a spill, we call this insurance fund, and they come out, they evaluate it, and they actually pay, or up to 80% or some enormous amount. So we're not afraid of that. Like, so if we found a tank leaked, or we found out there's cleanup, or some soils had to be removed, or whatever, there's already money there. Also, Getty would be responsible. Contamination. I guess it was Getty, then it was former Getty. So I want to offer my apologies for getting a little crazy in the beginning. I'm looking forward to Father's Day, and my one son's coming home from college, and I'm getting kind of excited to get into my weekend, so I apologize if I was a little abrasive. But I'm glad we got into that conversation about what you could see, what you think can happen, what things you'd like to see revised. Might be too tight, maybe we have to eliminate something or redesign it to make it work a little bit better, but we do appreciate that feedback. It really helps us. You guys understand your community best. We're here as visitors, so to speak, so we want to do it in a way that's going to be a benefit to everybody, so.
And what's your plan for the zoning hearing board? Are you waiting to get
We're
final
not going
feedback
until
before?
you guys
Okay.
will come to terms on a design.
Okay.
Then we'll determine what relief we need and take it from there. I think also when we get to a design that works, I probably want to have the engineers at Scott's firm talk to Pannoni and see what we would have to do stormwater management, so we can then make sure that'll work. Because when I go to zoning, I want to tell them I could do everything. I don't want them to have questions either about, no offense, but I want to take advantage of you guys as much as we can, get as much of these questions answered, and then say, we could support it. We go ahead and see if we can get the zoning relief. That makes sense to you guys.
Sounds good.
Saves a lot of aggravation for everybody, because then you get a plan and you have design issues, and then people don't want to change them. We want to keep it flexible.
Right, so I guess the idea is that the existing site's non-conforming, you're gonna demo it and then seek a new non-conformance from zoning?
Well, we'll take it to zoning based on what the zoning officer tells us we'll need, in terms of, if we have to prove our nonconformities to the zoning hearing board, we'll do that. If there's certain things that we don't need to do because they're obvious nonconformities, great. We already know that in this design, there's certain zoning criteria. I'm sure on revised designs, it'll trigger other zoning items. But I'd rather settle on the design that we can all live with, and then not let the zoning relief drive it versus better design drive it. And then, because, it's a small site, it's not a Wawa, and we don't want it to be one like that. So there's different ways to do it, and I think my client's gonna be flexible about it. I didn't know that he's okay moving those pumps, so that could change everything, the way it could work. Yeah, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for all the feedback, and we'll be back. See how fast Pat could turn it around, but it may not be next month, but maybe, certainly by August.
I understand the next item on the agenda is 14 Claremont Boulevard, minor subdivision plan, DEP component 4A, municipal planning agency review.
Want the short version?
Please.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend we approve component 4A for the Claremont Road subdivision.
I will second that motion.
Is that a motion? Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. Any discussion of the motion? Seeing none, we'll call a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Last item on the agenda is a review of the minutes of February 8. Is there any discussion of those minutes?
I move to adopt the minutes as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seeing no discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Seeing nothing further on the agenda, is there any news or goodwill?
Happy Father's Day to everybody. All the dads and father figures out there.
And
I did want to add, Susan Bruco, who leads the Historic Commission, is being recognized by the township. And the name of the award with me, but that'll be happening.
Making history.
All the work she's been doing.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All, any opposed? Okay, we are adjourned.
You had to sign that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sometime I came in and signed something.